Hey everyone, I'm Beth McAndrews from Dread Central, and I am here today with director Rob Savage, the director behind DashCam and Host. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So, for our viewers who are not familiar, can you just give us a quick little up to speed on what DashCam is?
Dashcam is a found footage horror movie that follows Annie Hardy, who's a LA-based musician who she does a show where she drives around and improvises rap music while she gets her groceries or does whatever. And she's sick of the LA pandemic lifestyle, so she flies over to the UK to pay a surprise visit on one of her old bandmates. And it doesn't go to plan, and she ends up stealing his car, stealing his phone, taking over his delivery job, and gets asked to go on a very special, very sinister uh, drive where she's asked to take a strange, frail old woman to a safe house on the edge of town for a large wad of cash, and this woman is being pursued by someone or something, and shenanigans ensue.
Yep, it's a wild ride. Let's just to put it very lightly. So I'm curious where this idea kind of came from because you had Host at the beginning of the pandemic and it was very contained, and
Yeah,
it was a pandemic movie, and this is also a pandemic movie, but the scope is just so much larger and
yeah,
there's so much more going on. So I'm curious what that was like to kind of conceive of this idea and then execute on it.
yeah. I mean, we made this the same year as Host. We shot it
That's
end of
right. Oh my
2020. Yeah, so we
god.
shot this is we because of the festival cycles, and we wanted to wait for TIFF for the premiere. It's coming out now, but it's a 2020 movie. It's a movie about the end of 2020, and you know the world was kind of coming out of lockdown, and we were coming out of lockdown, and we were coming off the back of this very contained, very you know for a large part, Host is very low key. It kind of goes nuts at the end, but um, we wanted to do something just totally different, and we were just a bit stir crazy and just a bit crazy generally at the end of 2020. And
Yeah.
um, and I kind of wanted to do something. I had an idea about Dashcam as being like one of the kind of really excessive um, splatter sequels, like Evil Dead 2 or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 or Hellraiser 2, where a kind of much more low key, much classier first movie gets followed by a batshit crazy, slightly too much, very excessive, like you know. Um, More kind of comedy version of the first. So that was kind of in my mind. I wanted this to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part Two of 2020 found footage movies. And whether that's a good idea or a bad idea, that was what was in my head at the time.
That's so, I love that comparison because it really is the batshit companion to Host in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. And so I want to talk about Annie Hardy. And so, how did you find her? Well, first of all, how did you find her?
Well, she's Jed Shepard, one of the co-writers. He produces her podcast, and so he showed me one day. She actually does this show, Band Car, where she drives around and like improvises rap music as she goes about her day, and she's such a kind of unique character and has such a unique way about her that immediately I was like, oh well, I want to see her get chased by a demon. I think that'd be fascinating to see what a person like that would do in a kind of otherwise quite conventional horror film. Like just that sets my mind alight. Um, so that was kind of the inspiration, and we had this idea pre-host, and then post host I got this deal with Blumhouse to make these movies, and it seemed like Dashcam would be an exciting kind of left field way to go, and
Yeah.
also I wanted to do another fan footage movie because I wanted to do it quick and I wanted to do it nasty, and I wanted to splatter blood all over the screen and put all the money up there.
Hell yeah, love that.
Mm.
And so this Annie Hardy isn't really playing a character, right? Like she's kind of playing herself in this movie. Would you say like what's kind of, is there
Yeah,
like a line? Like it's weird. I know it's like maybe a little bit harder to figure out the line with her because I know she's playing a version of herself, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
similar to the it's kind of similar to the girls in Host. But, with Dashcam,
Mm.
everything is amped up to 11.
Mm.
So yeah, Annie would kind of, I'd never met Annie apart from on Zoom until a couple of weeks before we started shooting when she flew over. So it's very much that like she's playing a character and she's acting in the movie, like in Host, she's improvising a lot of her dialogue, or
Okay.
we're doing a take and I'm running in and being like, oh, this would be funny, say this. But it's she's very much like a version of Annie Hardy that I imagine from not really having met her, and she's totally not this character, although there's obvious overlap.
Yeah, and so, there's been controversy with the film, and I'm just
Mm.
curious, like, what was there, were you worried about that with kind of a lot of, she is very much like has a MAGA hat,
Mm.
speaks, doesn't like masks, all that stuff. And it's like, you really commit to it in this. And I'm just curious, was there ever any concern with like kind of her politics and coming into the politics of this movie at all?
No, I think anything that scares me is I think is probably worth doing, and I don't think it's worth doing the kind of half-assed version of this where we dial Annie back. She's such a kind of force of nature, and she's a much more kind of cartoonish version of that kind of the character has those political beliefs. There's and I'm always trying to talk in terms of Annie Hardy the character and Annie Hardy the person, because
Yeah.
look, Annie Hardy the person is like the kindest, most empathetic person I know. She came onto the set, she quarantined, she followed all the COVID protocols. She's respectful
Okay.
and lovely, and the whole entire cast and crew come from all walks of life and all political persuasions. Just absolutely fell in love with her. So there's there's it's she's acting.
Yeah.
She's acting and she's playing a character, which is very easy to forget in
Yeah.
situations like this where you've got Annie playing Annie Hardy.
Yeah. And that, I know that's definitely difficult. And good
Mm,
God, is she a character? Like
yeah.
I was gonna ask about improv because the things that come out of her mouth, like I was dying. I was like, who is this person? Like shit on my balls and like all this crazy
But
stuff. I
those
was like,
those are hers. Those are her actual catchphrases.
wow. It's so cartoonish. But again, like you said, it matches that tone of just
Yeah,
turning this
yeah.
up to like a whole other level of
Well,
ridiculousness.
Annie in real life is she's such an incredible performer, even in her day-to-day life. So when she's going around saying, "Fuck me in the ass, shit on my balls," she's saying that to prod and poke and get a reaction. And no, she's very playful in every single aspect of herself. She's very Andy Kaufman-ish.
Oh, interesting. Okay, very interesting. Well, especially I won't spoil anything, but when she's running from things that are bad and she's
Yes.
saying those catchphrases still, I love that she stayed in character. There wasn't like this switch of her being like having the normal reaction of fear, but like cursing at that
Yeah.
whatever is getting her over and over again. Like, great.
Well, that's what I was so excited about putting her in a horror movie, because it's like, on paper, if you explain the plot, they pick up this. We pitched it as House of the Devil in a moving car, so it's not new, it's not it's not new territory. But then as soon as you throw a character like Annie in, the decisions she makes and the reactions, the kind of unconventional way that she acts when she's scared or threatened or is fighting back, it just makes all of those scenes feel a bit more fresh.
Oh, 100%. And like, so I again won't spoil anything, but the end really just off the rails. And
Yes.
in Host, you obviously had some incredible movie magic going on in Host, but it was
Mm,
all through Zoom. So with this film, were
yeah.
you all on set able to kind of create those moments a little bit more hands-on than with what happened in Host?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean,
Okay.
we were all, we shot it all in person. We took the cast and crew of Host all worked on this movie.
Yeah,
All of the girls from Host have little cameos, and
I love that.
yeah, and all the behind the scenes crew there. Um, So we were able to work together in a much, it wasn't set up like a conventional movie. We didn't have all the kind of it was a small, low budget movie still, but it was nice to just be able to be hands on and say, no, hand me the camera, do it like this, or to be able to feel the space and be there with the actors, and just it's a different kind of energy, and it was it just, the whole thing felt very energized and caffeinated, and I mean, as you can probably tell, we were all just
caffeinated
so
is a
giddy.
great word for it.
Yeah, well, we were all just so like high on being able to like be outside again and like interact with people, that they kind of that almost too muchness ended up in the DNA of the movie in a fun way.
Cool. And curious about how you created some of the more not supernatural but gruesome elements, and where those ideas came from, because again, something happens and you're like, okay, I get where this is going, and then it just becomes something completely different, and you're like, never mind, I have no idea where this is going anymore.
Yeah,
you got me.
Well, again, like working with Annie, it just felt like as we were shooting, it felt like, oh, this character isn't the kind of person who's gonna give an exposition dump and talk about the plot. Like, she's not going to be interested in the plot. She's just going to want to get the fuck out of there, or she's going to want to do her thing. So it became this fun thing of like a horror movie where the main character isn't interested in the plot, and so she's kind of staggering into these situations with very little investment in how they connect together. And that's kind of where we utilize the comments. And if you watch the movie, these commenters are like, they're being internet sleuth the whole time, and they figure this shit out way ahead of Annie, and all the mythology and the kind of the
See, I was going to ask about the comments, because I need to rewatch, because I need to pay better attention to the comments, which I think is so interesting, and how, especially with like second screen horror and this kind of thing with streaming, the way you can use the comments. Because I was going to say, like, how did you guys go about creating those comments? Because I know like writing those and making that part of the film, and like the idea of rewatchability, and if that was something you were thinking about and wanting people to be able to rewatch this with a new perspective.
Oh, totally. I mean, the first time you watch this movie, it's just meant to like hit you over the head, and you just want to kind of like stagger out on the other end, be like, what the fuck did I just watch? And then you can go back and watch it, probably on the first watch, and we kind of imagine this would be the case. Nobody's really going to be reading the comments apart from the occasional glance over in a quiet moment. So there's a second experience of watching this movie through the eyes of these commenters, and how they interact with each other. And we spent a kind of sleepless couple of weeks, me and the producer, just living on Red Bull and putting together thousands and thousands of comments, creating these characters. There are characters that have, every single one of those characters has a personality and has an arc, and there's characters that start out skeptical and end up on Annie's side. There's people who like there's somebody who's just getting really high the whole time and has a really bad trip, and like there's all these different characters you can watch if you want to follow along.
I'm so excited to rewatch it then. That's so cool, because that's so much thought into these comments. Like, that's incredible that you like made all of these characters that they just exist in text. That's so cool.
And they've all we felt very schizophrenic by the end, like writing in the perspective of these different characters, and like they've all got their own voices for sure. Doug was really invested in that. He had this crazy color schemed spreadsheet that he obsessed over to the point of madness.
Oh my god, so cool. Oh my gosh. Oh well, I'm gonna have to rewatch it immediately and look at that, because I was thinking about that every time I looked over at the comments. I'm like, shit, I bet there's something really cool going on over there, and I'm missing it. So
well, that's where the plot is. If you want the plot. If you want the visceral experience, you watch the screen. If you want the plot, you watch the comments.
Cool. I just have one last question for you before we wrap up. If you were going to program your perfect double feature with DashCam, what other film would you pair with it?
I've kind of already said it. I'd probably do Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Because because I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but in terms of rewatchability, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is just the most fun. I mean, I'd say Evil Dead 2, but I wouldn't ever want one of my movies put next to Evil Dead 2 because it's such a perfect movie. It's intimidating.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd say Texas 2.
Oh, that would be so fun. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to chat about the insane dash cam. I'm excited for everyone else to see it. And
Thank
it's
you.
coming to theaters this June, everybody. So make
Yeah,
sure you
yeah.
guys check it out.
People should see it with a group of people, preferably drunk. That's the optimum way to experience this movie.
Hell yeah. So
Yeah.
don't forget it, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks so much.